Volunteer Award for this weekend. Now, I have to also congratulate and thank Aaron Gilbert, because you were on the wall yesterday during the Monochrome GT4 Australia race, and we did see that Ryan Hansen went into the wall. And you were right there on pit wall, Aaron, and you were a fantastic communicator and displayed all of your leadership skills, making sure that everybody knew what was about to happen and making sure that no one was standing in the way. So congratulations, you are a volunteer of the round, but a massive congratulations to yourself on just your skills and everything you did in that moment.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was just kind of, I just was doing my job pretty much. I just happened to be looking the right way at the right time, and just instinct took over and just try to help myself, help my team, make sure everyone was safe.
And you said you first became an official in 2013, but this is your first event in 2 years since 2023.
Yeah, correct. It's great to be back at the track for however long it's been. It's just good to be right next to the cars if I can't actually drive them myself. It's just a whole bunch of fun. If you're best seat in the house. Yeah.
It certainly is. So we'll invite Andrew Adamson from Shannons in to award you with your certificate. Congratulations. Pose for the all-important photo. Again, it is very important to recognise all of our wonderful officials around Queensland Raceway this weekend as we're set to go racing for the Monochrome GT4 Australia series. Let's throw it over to Krause and Thomas Randall.
It's actually not Krause and Thomas Randall. Before we go to those two, Greg Rust and me, Cameron Vandendungen down here in the lane. GT4 cars starting to roll out on track, and Rusty, they really came to our attention and prominence as a category last year, and I think this was the event that really made us all sit up and go, GT4's a very cool category.
I mean, great roll-up of cars here, Cam. Wonderful story that a moment ago with Charlie too about the officials on the wall yesterday and what ultimately unfolded for Ryan Hansford and that team. Unfortunately, they won't take part in this race today with that Mustang, and we detailed at the top of the coverage today some revised results after a long night in the Motorsport Australia race control, looking in detail at what unfolded in that first race. So Shane Smolin taking it out, and well done to Tim Lay and Cody Bircher, second in the BMW.
Yeah, it was incredible, and I was standing doing the podium for that one, and everyone was looking at each other going, what's happening here? So well done to Motorsport Australia and all the officials involved in that. Great job by the teams to get the cars ready for today. I was talking to Brett Peters as well last night. Their spirits are up with the Ryan Hansford entry. It was a shame, a relatively new car, but what's good signs is they're already looking ahead to the next event. So shout out to the whole crew over there at Multi Spares, because they're a great outfit.
Those Mustangs seem to be growing in numbers. We've seen Marcus Liddell among others. I mean, he had a very good result yesterday too, we should point out, once the revised and final standings came through. So it's a relatively short period of time to reset. We kind of finished when the sun had set yesterday. Some work for the crews, like the Audi that Blake Purdy drove, which was involved in an incident yesterday too, so should be good today.
Very different conditions today though. Still that semi-headwind, so the wind will be on the nose of the car as they make their way to turn one to start this race.
That is George Miedeke causing trouble there while we're on air.
So if you did hear those revs, that was very much for your benefit, I think, Greg Rust. Great team over there. They were just dominant last year, and I think they've been one of the key reasons why so many Mustangs are out there on the grid. Even one Richard Craill has started inquiring about one with his own race team. That tells you the level of interest.
So why don't we get set to take you to the commentary team, and the little takeaway as the Lay Bircher BMW leaves the lane here is that the calibre of the competition in this class hasn't just stepped up a notch, it's stepped up several notches in season 2025. You're in for a very good race here. A lot to unfold. Let's take you to Thomas Randall and Richard Craill now.
Rusty, Cam, thank you. Good morning. And what a story we saw unfold yesterday evening here at Queensland Raceway with Monochrome GT4 Australia. There were so many permutations out of it, it would give aspirin a headache, but we'll try and unpick all that for you. But the beauty of the way these races play out is that today is a clean break. It's a different grid, a reshuffled order, and we get to have another crack at this. Delighted to say my good buddy Thomas Randall, supercars driver for the Castrol Tickford Racing Ford Mustang team, is alongside me, a guy who's driven cars like this and GT World Challenge machinery and knows Queensland Raceway extremely well. let's just park last night for a moment and look ahead to what we've got, which is a great battle at the pointy end between McLaren and Ford Mustang for the big victory today.
Indeed. So good morning to you, Richard Crail. Good morning, everyone tuning into our live coverage here on 7plus. And first day of winter it is today, first day of June. But I tell you what, it's warm enough up here in Brisbane. I'm in the T-shirt right now, unlike when I hop on the plane and head back to Melbourne. But like you said, full reset today as the cars are still just making their way into their grid positions. And this is kind of a bit of a repeat on last year. Mediki versus Gagan for the front 2 spots here. We've got Jacob Lawrence and Shane Smolin in 3rd, Jacob Lawrence in 4th. That was a great job in qualifying from them yesterday because they are battling it out in the AM class. So great job from them. Then we've got Daniel Price in 5th in that Audi, which unfortunately was in that incident on the first lap yesterday involving, that was his co-driver, and also I think that was Aaron Seaton as well.
So Goodfield lining up, getting set for the rolling start in this one. Queensland Raceway, 6 corners, 3.1 Ks. It looks simple on paper, but as always, there's much more to it than meets the eye. And Marcus Liddell took us for a tour in his Ford Mustang earlier in the weekend.
Hey guys, Marcus Liddell here. Welcome to Queensland Raceway. Beautiful one day and raining the next. A little bit damp into turn 1, back to 3rd gear here. The car's very on edge in the wet. A little bit drying out there, but really working hard at the wheel. A little bit of a dab of brakes into 2, just get the car settled, and it's all about trying to get power to the ground for the long back straight. Car's moving around a lot, as you can see. Up through the gears, back straight's very long here. Get a little bit of a break, check the mirrors, see how things are going. Check the weather, still no good. 150 board on the brakes, about 1200 PSI pedal pressure, back to 2nd gear. Kind of nurse the car in, and then it's all throttle from here. These cars are great with both traction control in longitude and latitude. Back up, headed into turn 4, up through the gears. This is 4th gear, on the brakes, back to 2nd. You can see the car walk around on the change of surface. 2nd gear through here, it's really tiptoey through here. You really can't use the curbs at all at Queensland Raceway in the wet. They're just so slippery. Back down for turn 6, looking for the 100 board over on the right-hand side. Nice and late, firm on the brakes. Again, 1300 PSI pedal pressure, back to 2nd gear, get the car rotated early, and then start feeding all that Mustang power down in the wet, try and get it back out. And that's a lap of Queensland Raceway, guys. Hope you enjoy it.
Well, that was a lap of the circuit, and I've got a driver that knows, has done many, many laps of the circuit. Now, Cameron Crick, last time I spoke to you on 7 Sport, you weren't in this category, but you told me, geez, if there's a category I want to get into, it's GT4, and here we are standing trackside, and your car is out there, albeit probably not in the best grid spot for you.
Yeah, no, starting in the back row today, so there's only one way to go, I guess. But yeah, really stoked that we're in this category this year. Obviously, Dean and myself are taking the step up. Obviously, we were doing production cars last year, and he's driving really well. So a bit unfortunate with qualifying. We left the wet setup in it and obviously dried quite a lot. So we're starting off the back today. But yeah, Dean's driving really well, and hopefully we can come forward.
So what was it about this category that was so attractive for you, and what is it that you're enjoying the most?
Just cool cars, obviously, and for me, doing the wild card this year, I wanted to drive something that's still fairly fast, got a lot of grip, and this is a good gap filler for me to do as well. And we feel like it's good for Dean's brand, and he wants to improve his driving as well. So obviously, it was the right fit and the right step up. So yeah, we're loving it, and we obviously go to cool tracks around Australia, and it gets good television, and Dean's happy with that too.
So last question for you, otherwise it'll feel like an in-depth analysis, but target for this race, have you got a target position that you call a pass mark?
I'd say first. It could be a long shot, obviously, but yeah, we've got a good set of tyres on. Hopefully maybe a safety car midway through when I jump in. Obviously, yeah, we're coming right from the back there, so we got a lot of things that need to go our way, but who knows? So obviously yesterday was pretty crazy, so anything could happen today.
There you go, Cameron Crick. Richard Crail, he's gone to the same school as you. If you aren't first, you're last.
Thank you, Cameron. There's some improved production terminology going on there. I think from your career, there is the D.A. Campbell Transport Racing Ford Mustang starting off the back, 4th in the Silver Am class yesterday. So they've got opportunity to progress forward in this one today. Yesterday's race was wild, and it will take a lot to unpick it. And the highlights really only tell a part of the story. There were cars that peeled off on the opening lap, on the formation lap, before the race actually got away. And for 3 corners, it was incredible racing in really greasy conditions as rain started to fall. We had half the field on slicks, half on dry. Then unfortunately on the exit of turn 3, contact at the front, the pole-sitting Nippy's Audi with Blake Purdy behind the wheel tapped into a spin and ended up in the fence. Big impact here for Jake Camilleri. He was okay, but a big whack between turn 1 and turn 2. And then the heavens open and it got crazy.
It did, and it was crazy from the get-go, but then the rain just kept on coming, like you said, Crailsy, and this was the number 19 Mercedes doing some Tokyo drifting after some contact with the number 5, I think it was the BMW, sorry, down at turn number 3. So we had a brief safety car period at the start, and then we had a safety car period in the middle, 3 safety cars in total, and there was action aplenty. We thought that by the end it might have calmed down a little bit, but there was a lot of penalties as well dished out for cars that went through the red light at pit exit, and that affected what originally was our race leader, and this was that massive accident which ultimately ended the race under red flag for Hansford. Thankfully, he's okay. The car is not. And at the end of it all, this was the 22 BMW of Tim Lay spearing it off right at the end there. Managed to get that thing towed out, and they actually were our class winners in the silver class. Shane Smollen ended up being the race winner overall, so there was so much to unpack from this one. And talking about unpacking, here is our track map of Queensland Raceway.
3.13 kilometres, a 60-minute, 1-hour race on the clock, and the clock has started ticking as the field moves away for the formation lap. There were 6 penalties applied post-race last night, and the irony is that even with that accident, with the red flag and the race being stopped essentially and not resumed, as we confirmed the grid for you, the Hansford car, results go back a lap, was leading. They would have won the race despite being involved in a massive accident. However, they were one of several penalised 33 seconds for exiting pit lane while the red light was on, and there were some serious contenders involved in that as well. Separate grid for this race though, it has no bearing on the results from last night. So McLaren and Ford on the front row. Shane Smollen ended up winning outright last night and won the AM class. First time a Porsche has won outright in Monochrome GT4 Australia. Jacob Lawrence, as you touched on earlier, really good qualifying performance. The Audi has been repaired and is good to go today. I saw them this morning driving that car around the paddock slowly to make sure everything was good and set. Championship leaders in the silver class, Max Gagan and Tom Heyman. It is Max starting the McLaren Artura for Method Motorsport, car number 25, the green, black and yellow WM Waste sponsored car. So they are in a good position, but they were one of several that got the penalty yesterday, and they ended up second in the silver class. So still good championship points, but it could have been a little bit more. So they're out for some revenge, and so too George Miedeke and Rylan Gray in the Ford Mustang that will start on the outside of the front row.
I don't think we'll be seeing anyone peeling into pit lane before the start of this one to change to wets.
It was very confusing. There were strange strategies for a 1-hour race yesterday. There was a lot of stuff going on, and at one point half the field ended up a lap down. So we get set for a rolling start. McLaren and Ford on the front row of the grid. Gee, the Mustangs have been impressive since rolling into Monochrome GT4 Australia, but the McLaren Artura has been the benchmark. 1-hour racing, lights are out, and we're underway on a stunning Sunday morning here in Ipswich. And the talk of the big V8 Mustang wins the drag race into turn 1. Shane Smollen ducks into second place. It's busy behind. That was a move up the inside, and they all squeeze through a little bit further in the pack. Price in the Nippy's Audi is 5th. Behind it is Tim Lay.
Contact
from Origin. Off goes Nathan Morecambe. Correction, as Lockie Hennock is driving the System Method car, and around goes one of our silver AM pace setters.
It's Gomersall.
Yeah, in the SS Signs Mustang. So turn 2 has caused some dramas.
Just doing a few pirouettes there on the grass, and it'll get that thing going. And that's such a shame that turn 1, lap 2, that's a contact between, that was the 24 Method Motorsport McLaren of Hennock. So that car, and they've just had it coming together on the way in, both spun in opposite directions. Thankfully, everyone avoided contact with the 71. That's such an awkward place to stop. Thankfully, he arrested the car there, didn't roll back. And we're still under green flag conditions here as the 25 Maxi Gagan gets the move done on Shane Smollen. So he lost out on the start to Smollen and also to Mediki. Mediki out in front, leading in that 35 Ford Mustang.
It's a great start for the Mustang. Gagan slow away, but on the rebound as the field sorts themselves out a little bit more. That was Ben Newman in the Buckby Motors Mercedes AMG, just working past Adam Wallace and Tony Quinn a little bit further back. That was a brief shot of Tim Berryman in the Toyota Supra. They had a win in their class yesterday with Daniel Frugas, the second win for the GWR Australia Toyota Supra this season. Cool to have the Supras in the field, and gee, isn't Toyota making a splash in Aussie motorsport at the moment, which is great to see. So we take a breath, things settle down. Mediki, Gagan 1 and 2, Smollen in third and leading the AM class ahead of Jacob Lawrence. Price is next, then Timlay 6th. Chris Lillis, the West Australian, in 7th place. Tim Berryman, Summer Rintoul in the Mercedes AMG, and Walker rounding out the top 10. He was one of the cars out of the race in the wet conditions yesterday, one of the contenders in the AM Class Championship. So they take a deep breath, a pause, and start thinking about that first pit stop a little later on in the race as we watch Tim Lay from Orange in Country New South Wales putting the pressure on Daniel Price in the Audi.
Just on that note with the Supras, so Berryman and Frugas ended up getting the win in Silverram yesterday after all those penalties were applied, and they're currently leading in Silverram as well. So at the moment, they're having a great weekend here at Queensland Raceway, the paperclip, as it's called. And just out in front, Mediki with just under 1 second margin to Maxi Gagan. And we know how strong that Ford Mustang is on the straights, but the McLaren under brakes and through the corners is where it is quite impressive, as Tim Lay just covering off. I think that's Berryman in behind, and we've got
Chris Lillis in the Porsche, the West Australian, running 6 outright, third in the AM class. He and Nathan Callahan have been having a really good debut season in their Porsche 718. 7th place that car is, correction, so the timing issue at the pointy end. It's been a theme this weekend, but so this is a good fight, and now the BMW gets to the back of the Audi. So Tim Lay, hugely experienced, former open wheel racer back in the day, a lot of success in production cars, has won the Bathurst 6 Hour, very successful dealership group in Orange in Country New South Wales, and still passionate about his racing as he chips away at the back of the Audi R8.
He's got a lot of pace this morning in the first opening few laps, does Tim Lay, really putting the pressure on here. Started in 7th, made his way past Chris Lillis, and now applying a lot of pressure on the back of the Nippy's Audi with Daniel Price. So if he can get his way past the Audi, then it's just going to be a matter of trying to get onto the back of Jacob Lawrence as well. And that car, the Tim Lay Cody Bircher 22 BMW, getting the win yesterday in the silver class after all those penalties were applied. So they're currently third in class behind Price with I think we've just had a little bit of a timing glitch because it is still Mediki out in front. That's just updated for us there. So the gap's still under 1 second out in front.
So there's a mandatory pit stop window halfway through. All the cars will roll into pit lane for a 117-second mandatory pit stop time. And then if you haven't watched Monochrome GT4 Australia before, there's a success penalty applied. So if you win your class, you, on the subsequent race, will get 15 seconds added to your pit stop time. If you're second, it's 10 seconds, and if you're third, it's 5. So it's just a way of equalising the field. It makes it even more impressive then when combinations rock up and still manage to win on both days. But it does mean that this very open category this year, where the depth of competition is as good as it ever has been, means that there's been a lot of different winners and a lot of different names at the front. Rusty?
You can maybe see a little shot here of Glenn Seaton, touring car champion, multiple touring car champion in this country, bit of a legend. He's on the radio naturally to the Gomersall Aaron Seaton Mustang. Now, you saw the incident at the very commencement of this race. I've just had a word to Glenn. I don't want to disturb him right now while he's keeping an eye on things, but he tells me everything is A-OK with that car, and it's a case of just pressing on.
Great to have the two-time Australian touring car champion here. He's one of the coolest guys to go and talk to, Cito, and just one of the nicest human beings you'll meet as well, and such a remarkable career as a driver and a team owner. If you're having a bad day, you just dial up the 1987 Bathurst 1000, a broadcast on the screens of 7, and watch that car control in the turbocharged Nissan, and it makes you smile. It's cool to see him in the paddock, and following his son's career, Aaron will be very fast. So with pit stop and maybe with a little bit of help from caution later in the race, there's a very good chance that Jason Gomersall and Aaron Seaton could still end up getting a decent result in the Silver Am class today.
Yeah, they've got a lot of work to do after that spin contact with the 24 McLaren on that first lap. So I think he'll be getting the elbows out a bit later on once he gets behind the wheel of that car, Aaron Seaton that is. And just on what you mentioned before about the pit stop times, Crailsey, one car that won't be affecting is our current race leader, George Madiki. So they are out in front. They don't have any extra compensation times. Got to add 15 seconds to the 22 BMW of Tim Lay, and then a further 10 seconds to the Maxi Gagan Tom Heyman car, and 5 seconds to the 24, which is probably not really going to affect the front field in terms of the race result at the end there, but just adding a little bit of insult to injury for that car after the Turn 1 incident.
There is the SS Signs Mustang. So Jason Gomersall just passing Nathan Murray in the Morris BMW. Meanwhile, further up, Tim Lay continuing to look racy, and Chris Lillis is getting into this as well, and Tim Berryman's come along for the ride. This is GT4 racing at its absolute finest. 4 different models, 4 different brands, all with different engine configurations. So V10 Audi R8, big turbocharged BMW with the front engine, the mid-mount Porsche Cayman 718, 4-cylinder engine in that car, and then behind them is Chris Lillis. Well, Chris Lillis in the Porsche. Behind them is Tim Berryman in that Toyota Supra. As we go back and watch Shane Smolin, in fact we go forward, don't we, with a battle for 3rd and 4th place.
Well, the battle for the race lead is down to less than, well, you could throw a blanket over them, Crailsey, because that's only probably 0.2 of a second. So that's our battle for the race lead in silver. Then behind them, there's the battle for the AM lead, and then behind them is the battle for silver 3rd position.
Yeah.
And here we go. Maxi Gagan around the outside of the 35 Ford Madiki, going to try and hold him out. And side by side out of the final corner, I'd say Madiki will probably be okay because we know how much grunt that thing's got in a straight line.
Well, the Mustang does have great torque, especially out of the slower speed corners. So it helped in that drag race down the straight, and George hangs on. Maxi Gagan putting the pressure on, the reigning GR86 champion in Australia in one-make Toyota racing. He stepped up to Super 2 this year. He is on the pathway to motorsport stardom, and he is learning a lot in this style of racing.
And he knows he's got to get the job done here, Crailsey, because that 35, as we mentioned, doesn't have any pit stop time.
Wow.
Down the inside, contact between the two, Madiki sideways, and I reckon race control will be having a look at that because there was definitely contact into the side of the 35 Ford, and I think he's going to let him go by as the arm goes out of the window for Maxi Gagan. Was that a sign of letting him go by, or was that...
Well, the arm was out the window, but he was blocking at the same time on the run into turn 4.
Oh, very confusing there, because I was just going to make the point that Gagan needed to get past, and he's covering again. I'm not sure. What's he doing with the arm waving? Is he letting him go through? I'm a bit confused because, like you said, he's blocking him. So they're about to come together again out of the final corner here. I'm not really sure what is happening out in front.
Now, Motorsport Australia Race Control will look at that. Craig Baird, the driver standards boss. This is another look. He came from a long way back and got to the door. So he was at the B pillar, but was he in control of the McLaren is the question that they'll be looking at upstairs. And just a little nudge. Good catch by Madiki, using all of his experience, the man from Port Macquarie, and holds onto it, and he'll now have another go and fight back.
Now, didn't these two have it coming together here last year at turn 3?
Well, it was the same car. Max wasn't in the race.
Same car, yeah.
So this time, the McLaren, very good, very stable under brakes, and certainly a lot of braking performance. But this style of racing, the cars all have different strengths and weaknesses. And George gets a really good drive. There's that power down. More waving going on from Gagan. Don't know what that's about. He defends, he covers his line. And George, he gets checked up in the middle of the corner. Gagan very slow at the apex. And there's some frustration building into this battle. I wonder if Rusty can shed some more light on it, Greg.
I'm actually keeping an eye on another battle at the moment, Crailsey, involving a different McLaren. And then Glenn Nerwin is at the wheel of the tough lift entry. If you followed the TCR series in recent years, you'll know that Glenn was in a 2-car outfit with this guy here in Zach Suter, who's on the radio and kind of coaching him at the moment. And is that because the Mustang's coming? Just tell us what you're up to here.
Oh, a couple of laps there, he was doing a great job, and then he said something's broken in the back of the car, but I'm not sure if he grabbed some water on the curb or something like that. It seems fine again now, so just trying to coach him through that, and yeah, we'll see where we end up.
Thanks, Zach.
Cheers.
Thanks, Rusty. Now Gagan pulls away a little bit, so there's some intensity that's just dropped out of that battle. George is now just going to sit in second place. What a start to race 2 of Monochrome GT4 Australia. What a contrast from yesterday. Max Gagan leads the way from George Miedeke. Shane Smolin in front in AM class. Tim Berryman leading the way in Silver AM. Now you have a theory, I can see it in your eyes, about George Miedeke and the way he's playing this out.
Well, look, nothing's come up on timing yet in terms of race control, noting that contact, whether or not it's just a case of play on or hip and shoulder, but whether or not Miedeke was thinking, hey, I'm just going to leave you out in front and not go by, and we've seen this before actually in supercars where the car behind, or the car that's had the contact doesn't go back past, which forces the car in front to get a penalty potentially. But like I said, nothing's popped up on timing yet, whether race control will look at that or not. There was definite contact between the two. It sent Miedeke sideways, and it'll just be down to how Motorsport Australia see this. They've got all the cameras. They can see what's going on, and Craig Baird will be having a look at that. So at the moment, Maxi Gagan is out in front, but he's going to need to try and stretch the margin greater if they're going to have any shot of a win, because that car already has an extra 10 seconds they have to serve in the pit stop.
Yeah, you're right. It is costly. So he needed to get in front. I think you're right, because the waving was like, okay, you can go by. George is a smart operator. He and his dad, the great Andrew Miedeke, have been around for a long time. I think George is like, no, you just do your thing, and then we'll worry about that and see what the decision is from race control. So they're playing that out in the front. This is Shane Smolin, Jacob Lawrence, who's having a really good run in the Randall Racing BMW. G'day to John Bow. I'm sure JB is watching. He was part of this team last year and a big supporter of what these guys and the Lawrence family are doing. So I know a 2-time Bathurst champion will be watching on. Tony Quinn up the inside of the number 21 Ford Mustang. Jared Kite behind the wheel. That's the car he's sharing with Marcus Liddell. Quinny, he's still got the enthusiasm, doesn't he? Gets the elbows out.
Trading a bit of paint there, nothing wrong with that.
Like it. Toyota Supra. He's got young Chris White Jr. behind the wheel, part of the Tony Quinn Foundation scholarship program they're running. He did a super job yesterday. One of the graduates out of the Toyota 86 Championship from New Zealand, sharing his car this weekend.
So Tim Lay got that move done on Daniel Price, and while Smolin and Lawrence are battling for the AM class spoils, it's got Tim Lay right onto the back of them, and it's just popped up on timing that incident, that was the incident from lap 1 between cars 24 and 71. Hennock and Gomersall has been noted. So, and we've got the 24 is off actually down at turn 1. That's beach. That could be a safety car here, Crailsey.
Yeah, Hennock not going anywhere, and it's annoyingly timed for them in terms of a pit stop window. So some more dramas in Monochrome GT4 Australia. The young gun in the number 24 McLaren Artura is stranded in the gravel trap. Lockie Hennock is going nowhere on the exit of turn 1. A car that is going somewhere will be the BMW M safety car, because it has been called for the first time today. And all of the hard work that has been done in the first 20 minutes of this race gets undone. Not far away from the mandatory pit stop window opening in this race, that 10-minute window to serve your pit stop. So this is another turn up for the books in Monochrome GT4 Australia.
I'm sure they would have filled that BMW M safety car up with plenty of fuel last night. Did plenty of laps in yesterday's race, and looks like he's had either contact or he's definitely spun that thing the way, just looking at the rubber laid down on the track there. So the gravel trap doing the job and arresting that car.
Yeah, I'm no rocket scientist, Tommy, but I can tell what's happened there. It's fairly self-evident with
Lost the rear?
the telltale signs through turn one and then into that very deep, nicely manicured gravel trap here at a venue that everyone affectionately now calls Queensland Raceway.
Correct.
Owned by Tony Quinn, and some great improvements made here. And as a result, a really good crowd has been here all weekend, lining the circuit in their cars. And this is the end of that accident. So there was one of the Randall Racing BMWs involved as well, potentially, certainly in the same geography as the 24 car. Try and get to the bottom of what happened with that. Let's go to Cameron van der Dungen.
I've got Rylan Gray here, and Rylan, I was calling this race last year when a Mustang was run into by a McLaren. It seems like history repeating today.
Yeah, it has. Same team, same corner, but haven't had a amazing look at it yet. But yeah, just got the little contract in the right rear. So yeah, we'll see what comes back from the stewards.
So I'll let you have a bit of a chat with the team before I dived in for this conversation. Has George reported any issues with the car at all?
No, I don't think he has so far, but I'll see when I hop in the car if anything's different. But yeah, it was interesting to say the least. So we'll just look forward to the end part of the race.
All right, Rylan, I'll let you go and get ready.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. Rylan playing that one pretty close to his chest at this point as he gets ready to get suited and booted and take over the number 35 Mustang. Yeah, strange series of events unfolded there at the battle for the lead.
And just while we caught this 24 having that moment down at turn one, so Tim Lay must have got the move done on Jacob Lawrence as well before the safety car period. So he's up into fourth outright and third now in the silver class. And that's going to be pretty handy on that restart as well. And Cody Bircher will take over that car. They will have the longest time to be served in the pit stop with an extra 15 seconds. So this will hurt them, and it'll also hurt Maxi Yagan, our race leader. And at the moment, nothing has popped up on timing in regards to that little contact between Yagan and Mediki down at turn 3.
I tell you what, Tommy, the Ford Ranger Raptor response vehicle has a lot of torque and grunt. They are a very impressive bit of kit. I've had some experience with one recently, but even it is struggling to dig the McLaren out of the gravel trap down there at turn 1. So deep is it beached. We've got the recovery truck there, but there's been a lot of rain yesterday. Friday was particularly wet here for most of the day, so even the gravel traps very, very sloshy when you go out into them. We're behind the control of the BMW M safety car. It's Monochrome GT4 Australia. Max Gagan leads the race from George Mediki. Shane Smollen on top in the AM class, and third outright in front of Tim Lay and Jacob Lawrence. Tim Berryman leads the way in Silver M. And we wait and bide our time for the next iteration of what will happen next in Monochrome GT4. The 6th race of a wild championship. The field has exploded in size and depth and competition.
Just on that Ford Raptor, I thought I'd just mention.
Okay.
2022, the Ford Ranger Raptor had a class win in the Baja 1000. So built tough, those Fords. And it's had plenty of use this weekend. We know how much it's rained over the weekend, so cars are very prone to getting bogged in the grass or the gravel trap. And
do you get one of those as a company car?
I do, actually. I do.
He does. Look at him, the big grin on his face. Happy with that.
Yeah.
Is Tommy Randall. Yeah, nice. Factory Ford driver that he is in the Supercars Championship. I like it.
So that contact down at turn 2 on lap 1 between Hennock and Gomersall has been resolved, with Hennock being handed a 15-second time penalty for that.
Not that it matters
Not that
anymore,
it matters at all, correct.
They're now 3 laps down and still very much stuck in the gravel trap, which is a shame for that team. And that will be little consolation for Jason Gomersall. Having said that, he's up to 19th position now, and the safety car allows him to condense right up, and that will put Aaron Seaton within fighting range of the leaders in that class. So the Silver AM class is being led by Tim Berryman in 7th outright at the moment in the Supra. The next best is Dean Campbell in 13th, and we heard from Cameron Crick early on in this race. There's the flash. Nash Morris watches on from pit lane.
Well, that Campbell car, as we know, started in dead last, 26th position. So they're up to 13th outright and second in class. And what did Cameron Crick say? He said, we need a win. Nothing will be as good as a win, of course, but a safety car is exactly what they wanted around that pit stop window, which is exactly what they've gotten. So this could work out beautifully for them. And their 118, or the 118 Ford Mustang. Challenging day for them yesterday. As Crick said, they had the wet setup in when the track dried out, so tough qualifying sessions for them. Back-to-back qualifying sessions we have in Monochrome GT4 Australia, and that sets the grid for both two races.
Recently executed the greatest comeback in Bathurst history, that team with a win from 66th position on the grid in the Bathurst 6 Hour, driving a BMW M2, Dean Campbell and Cam Crick. And what I love most about that is they won the race and drove the car into the National Motor Racing Museum afterwards. So it's on display there for all to see at Bathurst. Still behind the control of the BMW M safety car, and this very good looking Monochrome GT4 Australia field follows the safety car around. Interestingly, as the recovery is almost complete, the pit stop window opens now. 25 minutes into the race, they've got 10 minutes to complete the stop. You've got to pit now. Absolutely. Surely, while the safety car's out.
Yep. This is going to be a very busy pit lane. I was just going to make the note about Campbell and Crick, how you said that amazing victory in the 6 Hour.
Yeah.
They came from last, and they started off last today. Could a miracle happen for them? Who knows?
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I suspect it's about to get very busy down in pit lane, and that's where we find Cameron.
Thank you very much, guys. Actually, look who I've found. Fabian Coulthard here watching on the wall, mate. Great to see you at a racetrack. No shock, though, at my end.
Yeah, look, it's great to be at a racetrack, but I much prefer to be back behind the wheel. But you know, watching the GT4 category, I've been helping John out in the AMG over the recent times, and Ben Taylor in Sprint Challenge, so it's a bit of fun.
This is a great category, isn't it? We know GT3, you've spent a bit of time driving all sorts of cars. What is it that you think is special about GT4 as a category?
I think it's a great entry level, you know what I mean? It's got all the aids, ABS, traction, the racing's been great, the fields are massive, so it's got those prestigious brands as well, so I think it just works for everyone.
All right, I'll let you get back to enjoying the racing.
No worries, thank you.
And Cam, while you were talking there and in the lead up to that interview, Richard Crail talked about it getting busy here in the lane. Right on cue, Summer Rinsul comes in, so Jared Hughes is standing by. JGI 888 Mercedes AMG gets a nice little, okay, we might try and have a little word to Summer. How was the stint?
Oh, it was good, to be honest. I was just trying to pick up some pace there. I got left off a little bit at the start, and I really had to go a lot to catch up to those guys in front. And I got him there at the end, but unfortunately we did get a safety car, but it kind of works in a benefit as well. So just hoping Jared can go out there and go ham and get him back.
It's great to see the smile on your face. Yesterday was a pretty wild race, and you went from the moment of kind of podium out the back to revised results overnight. That must have been the sort of real highs and lows, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, we kind of tried to figure it out. We reckon we either got second or third, and even after all the penalties and everything, we still got third overall for silver class. We did get 10th outright, but still a great result, and we're really happy with it.
Cool. Before we let you go, this program has been great for you and for Jared, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been really, really good.
Good on you. Leave it to it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Rusty. Go out and give it some ham, I think she said. What a great character. Between she and Jared Hughes, there's a podcast in the making.
I wonder if there's like
between those two.
A code on the radio. Code ham. Code ham.
They are great characters. So of the 26 cars in the race today, 24 of them have been, or 23 of them have been in pit lane. One of them stuck in the gravel trap down at turn 1 and has since been recovered. And these are the only two have stayed out. Now, we're scratching our heads a little bit with this. They're going to lose an enormous amount of track position, Max Gagan, as the field leaves pit lane. Here they all go. Now, you would expect Method Motorsport to pit the 25 car now to hand over to Tom Heyman. Is this a roll of the dice? And there they go.
They probably, well, I can can only assume that they didn't want a busy pit lane, but they were the race leaders, so probably wouldn't have cost them as much. We'll just have to wait and see. They do have that extra 10 seconds that they've got to serve, so...
We'll get to the bottom of that call and that decision to stay out. Mark Griffith now remarkably assumes the outright race lead. He's the first car behind the safety car. There's a couple there that are going to get caught out by being stopped at pit lane. So the red light is on and you have to stop and wait for the safety car or the entire train to go through. And there were 6 cars penalised in the race yesterday for breaching that red light. It's like ignoring a traffic light on the roads.
Well, you're going to want to hope that when Gagan's stop finishes, that the safety car's not trundling down the main straight. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there, because if that's the case and there's a red light on, that will send them to the back of the train. So still under control of the BMW M safety car. The shot we had before in the background, I think they'd recovered Hannock's car, so he's back up and running, albeit 5 laps down, unfortunately for them.
So here are the cars playing catch-up. They're not exactly going flat out to race up behind the safety car.
Sam Scafidi there, race engineer, and there is unfortunately the sister car on the recovery vehicle, and these are all the cars that have already pitted. As we've got another McLaren, Zach Suter's McLaren stopped in the background. What's happened there?
And it's Zach behind the wheel. Has that happened after their pit stop? They stopped. And Gagan tumbling down the order.
They're going to want to hope that if they can get out before this safety car beats.
There they go. They'll be okay. So they'll be at the back of the lead lap essentially. They've lost an enormous amount of track position.
So where are they on? They're car 25. They're down in 19th.
So Mark Griffith yet to stop. The first car that has completed the mandatory pit stop in this race will be Rylan Gray. There he is, just catching the back of the train now. So Tom Heyman is going to end up right at the very back of the lead lap and currently scored in 20th place. It'll be a little bit better than that when Mark Griffith pits. He's the only car yet to make his mandatory pit stop, and it doesn't look like he's about to anytime soon. And this recovery will go on a little bit longer because the Ford Raptor Ranger is now recovering the tough lift McLaren.
It seemed like he might have just started to get that thing going. So whether he just needed to do a power cycle or something.
Control-Alt-Delete.
And just been noted, car 8 and car 21 for pit exit breaches. I can only assume that would be a red light potentially, as that's the Paul Morris McLaren.
We're just
coming to a stop now.
We're just hearing he stopped on track. The joys of a McLaren. You can get some free air conditioning by popping the door up and it will stay there. We just heard that the number 8 car stopped on track after that pit stop as well, with Morris behind the wheel.
So that Ford Raptor recovery is going from a different postcode every lap at this point.
Well, from one McLaren to another as well. And Zach Suter's got his car back to pit lane. So the other car under investigation for a pit lane breach is 21, and that's Marcus Liddell in the Ford Mustang. And Suter has got to pit entry, and the thing has stopped at possibly the worst possible location.
And the only car that would hurt would be the Griffith Mercedes, because they're last to actually serve their pit stop. Rusty, what do you got for us?
Just had a word to Shane Suter, to Zach's dad. Now, it looks like the crew are on the radio to him at the moment. This sounds like some sort of overheating issue going on at the moment. Not sure what's triggered it, but that sounds like what the problem is.
Thanks, Rusty. They've finally got that car back to the lane. The last thing you want to do is detonate an engine just because it's running hot. So probably a little bit of discretion there by Zach, who's very experienced and also owns and runs the team, so isn't particularly keen on copying an invoice for that either. The BMW M safety car leads, and Mark Griffith yet to stop. I'm surprised that that Money Me team, 3 Mercedes AMGs in their fleet run by Griffo's team this year.
I think they'd have to pit now, surely. You need a pit under safety car. But you know who this has benefited is the Cameron Crick Ford. They're now leading in silver class. So what happened to our Frugas and Berryman? They're down in 16th. They had the extra time, didn't they?
15 seconds for winning.
Correct.
So that's certainly hurt them a little bit. Cameron?
Oh, I've got George Medicki here. We spoke to Rylan Gray before. I was going to ask you about the incident, but the car seems to be in great shape at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's I got a great start, and obviously felt pretty comfortable at the beginning. And car pace when the tyres are good, for quite similar to the McLaren, but because they're so much lighter as the tyres go on, the McLaren just has such an advantage under braking and on entry. So yeah, I left him room. He chose not to use it and blew through me. Definitely, that was a big bump and something I don't really think is racing. But we'll let the stewards decide that one. And car feels okay after that. I just settled in, put my head down, and we were getting back towards the pace. But yeah, we'll see how we go.
Slightly messy race out there at the moment. It seems like there's cars off everywhere.
Yeah, it has been messy. Bit of a messy weekend. Obviously, yesterday was chaos. For us, we've kept our nose clean relatively up until obviously that contact, and we'll do our best to do that now. Obviously, Rylan, everyone knows how good he is. He's doing amazing things in Super 2, and we're looking forward to his wild card. But he's excellent in this thing. We know when we put him in, he's going to go fast, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Now, here's a gentleman. Look at this, boys. Just very quickly, if we scroll back, you'll see this is what George does for me. I have to stand on my tippy toes to get near him, and he goes the full leg spread just so I don't look as... Yeah, thanks, George. Yeah, thank you, mate.
I don't think he's the only one that has to do that to you, Cam. So very gentlemanly like from George Medicki. And they're in the box seat at the moment, aren't they, Crailsey?
Yeah, he's a good egg. And Rylan behind the wheel, a safe pair of hands to bring that car home. Their closest rival in the silver class will be Nash Morris, and then Jared Hughes, who's now third. We heard from his co-driver Summer Rintle in the lane with Rusty earlier. Blake Purdy, fourth in the silver class and seventh outright. And as you touched on, Cameron Crick leading Silver Am and eighth outright.
Now the pit window is closed and
Griffith is yet to stop.
Yeah, that's very confusing. Unless he's somehow pitted and it didn't show up on timing, but I highly doubt that. So I'm not really sure what's happened there. But that number 19 Mercedes, which got involved in that turn 3 incident yesterday and damaged the left rear suspension, that put them out of the race. So they're our effective race leader, as they might have just gone to peel into the lane. We'll just keep an eye on that, but it's sort of too little too late. They're in the lane now, but the pit window has closed. So that's just not only going to be, well, a penalty, I imagine, for that, because the window was open for, 10 minutes? It opened at 32 minutes remaining, and it's now 22 minutes remaining. So they're effectively doing their pit stop in a time outside the window. Very confusing.
Yeah, not allowed to do that. That'll be a huge penalty. That's one of a couple of mysterious calls we're working on getting to the bottom of in this race. So there now needs to be a process where the cars that are out of order will be caught up. So let's go back to the lane. Rusty.
Just on another issue here, Crailsey, you can see very clearly that the 2014 Bathurst winner Paul Morris is out of the McLaren that he shares with Chris Pappas. That car, we're told, has transmission issues. Looks like it's not going any further in this one.
Thanks for the update, Greg. It's a shame. Rusty and the dude, Paul Morris, and Chris have been mates for a while. There's Paul standing with Rob Woods from TechWorks Motorsport. And the reason he's doing that is because Paul's son, Nash, is currently behind the wheel of the TechWorks entry. Porsche that sits fourth on the road and second in the silver class after a really solid opening stint by Zoe Woods, who's having a ripper season in that car this year.
Absolutely, and they started in 16th position for this race. So 20 minutes to go, safety car bunching up the field. This is perfect for Nash Morris. So they've been plagued with issues so far this weekend. They had gearbox dramas, and Nash didn't even set a time in his qualifying session in Q1. So they were off the back row in the first race, and they were sort of caught up in that, starting on slick tyres, going to wets, going a lap down, all those sorts of things. But they're in a really good position now. Fourth outright, second in silver class. He's just going to have to try and find his way past the two AM cars. And Jacob Lawrence, after a very challenging Sydney Motorsport Park where they had plenty of speed, but just a few penalties in the lane, they're our leaders in AM class. And Smollen dropped to 11th due to having that extra time with the pit stop compensation.
Rylan Gray, Jacob Lawrence, who leads the AM class in the number 32 Randall Racing BMW. And that's a car that's had 2 wins in class so far this season. Both of them came at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. So they're in a good position. Nathan Callahan behind it in that Porsche. That's the car we talked about earlier that was in that fight. Chris Lillis was behind the wheel. They're 5th in the AM class in the championship, looking for their first class win of the season. So there's an opportunity for them perhaps to get a victory and the big trophy today.
So just been told the BMW M safety car, this will be the final tour of this safety car period as they're making their way into pit lane and will be led by Ryland Gray in the 35 Ford Mustang. So this would be very good if he can keep it there and see the checkered. This would be great for their championship fight against that number 25 Method Motorsport McLaren, who we saw it. They didn't elect to pit on that opening lap under safety car, and they're down in 18th outright.
Yeah, last of the silver class cars running at the moment. So this could be a big championship moment for Ryland Gray and George Miedeke, and that their Mustang that's leading the race and the class. Morris, Hughes, Purdy, the silver cars, and Cody Bircher as well. So it's not like it's going to be easy for Heyman just to cruise through that opposition either.
No, definitely not. So only 18 minutes remaining in this race as well. And yeah, Ryland Gray's in the box seat out in front, getting plenty of temp in those tyres. You lose a lot of temp under safety car conditions when you're going nearly 2 or 3 times less the speed of what you would do under green flag conditions. And now Ryland just needs to make sure he nails this restart. And we've got the 17 Mercedes of, is that Haley Love?
The Love entry, father and son combo. The other thing we just heard is that car 19, Mark Griffith, who saw them pit, they're having an argument because they believe they were okay on time in pit lane. But you and I definitely saw a pit lane is closed when they entered the pit lane. Regardless, it doesn't matter. They're not in contention at the moment. Who is in contention are the Ford Mustang that leads the race for Lubrimax and the Miedeke Motorsport entry as Ryland Gray leads the field back to green in Monochrome GT4 Australia. 17 minutes remain in this one. Jacob Lawrence in second in that blue BMW. Nathan Callahan, the West Aussie, in third. The white, red and black Porsche. And then another of the Caymans with Nash Morris behind, then Jared Hughes and Blake Purdy. And they're side by side into turn 1. Lockie Manif was making a move in the Ginetta and was looking to pass his old teammate Shane Smollen. They won some AM class races last year. This is Jared Hughes putting the pressure on Nash Morris, who's a little bit wide on the exit of turn 2 and drives the Porsche to the inside of the road. Hughes weaving to get some tyre temperature up. These first couple of laps are always busy on a restart. Lawrence bowls it very, very wide. It's going to open the door for Callahan to get through, and that's for the class lead for AM class, and second outright, the Porsche gets through.
Nash Morris as well, covering off Jared Hughes, who will keep an eye on him. He's got plenty of pace in that Mercedes down the inside. An attempted overtake on Nash Morris. Can't quite get it done, and it is chaos at the moment here all the way through the field. Everyone vying for overtakes, and this is now Nash trying to go down the inside of, I think that's the Randall Racing BMW of Jacob Lawrence. So he's been pushed out there, and he's gone from attacking that Porsche to being behind now 3 cars, as there's Cameron Crick now trying to go down the inside of Jacob Lawrence as well.
Yeah, I feel a bit for Jacob. He's in a battle with a bunch of really fast, talented, young, rising stars of the sport, and in a different class situation as well. And now Bircher looking to go at the inside of the Wallace Mustang. Great to see them back on the racetrack after a big crash at Phillip Island. They missed the last round at Sydney Motorsport Park, and they're in the mix as well. There's Lockie Manif in the Ginetta looking to make some moves. Shane Smollen, who won yesterday, is in the thick of this action. Massively busy, and now the 2 Porsches, Nash Morris up behind Callahan, and there's a bit of energy here for Nash to get past Nathan because he wants to go out after Ryland Gray.
Yeah, so Blake Purdy's also got the move done as well on the Randall Racing BMW of Jacob Lawrence. So that battle now for second, Callahan's going to be under a lot of pressure from Nash Morris, who's having a lot of pressure applied to him as well from Jared Hughes, and Nash Morris up into third outright at the moment as here's Cody Bircher trying to put a move. BMW on BMW down the inside. Just can't quite get it done there. Can he get the drive on the exit? Not quite.
This battle for second is awesome, and it's second through to about 10th place. There go the Porsches. It's busy behind. Mercedes, that's Lockie Dalton looking up the inside of Lockie Manif at turn one, and they squeeze through there side by side. Bircher finally gets the move done.
And all this is doing between Morris and Callahan is helping Ryland Gray stretch that margin. There's contact between the Ginetta, and that's more contact between, I think that's Manif, the Ford, and Heyman.
Involved. Huge moment championship-wise. Tom Heyman in the Method McLaren involved in that. And they're both rejoining, but I think there's damage, and Max Gagan can watch on from pit lane and has no control over that. Big damage to Lockie Manif. The right front's been pulled out of that car, the Wallace Mustang as well. There's drive-through penalties going on a little bit further back. We'll touch on that later. It doesn't affect the outright battle. Oh, big damage again to the left front. And again, the BMW safety car is going to be out.
Now, did Heyman manage to avoid that? Did he just go all the way off the track to avoid it, or was there contact involving the McLaren as well? So what happened here? So down the inside, that's Lockie Dalton down the inside of Manif, and that is Frugus making contact with the back of Manif. Nothing Manif could do there. Everyone trying to avoid Manif on the brakes, can't quite get it fully arrested, and there's the 62. Now, I think the McLaren, they've sort of drifted into each other. I would say that is quite light contact there, so I think Heyman will get away with that. It's just cost him more positions. So that's how costly it's been for them with that pit under the second lap of the first safety car. And poor Lockie Manif there's nothing he could have done there, Crailsy.
Frugus was running fourth in class. Remember, they won yesterday. The Ford Ranger Raptor is already there on the scene. They're getting the debris out of the way. Well, the whole field's had to sort of check up there. It's like a traffic jam getting out of the racetrack of an evening. So they're all working their way through. The race neutralised again. Still 12.5 minutes to go. And you're right, there was a fleeting glance between the McLaren and the Mustang as they recovered through the grass on the infield there, but I think they got away with that one.
I think Frugus will be seeing the wrath of the race control there, and that's just had a massive knock-on effect for a couple of cars. And unfortunately for Heyman as well, got caught up in it. Thankfully, it appears no major damage, but it's been so costly for them not taking that pit stop earlier on when the rest of the field pitted, because they probably would have, well, they would have avoided all that. They would have still been up in the pointy end of the field. And unfortunately for that car, they're down now, showing in 20th position with 11 minutes to go. So they are 6th in class, in the silver class. And this is all helping the cause for the 35 Medici grey entry in the Ford Mustang for their championship battle. Callahan still second outright in the 777 Porsche. Nash Morris third overall, and that's going to help them as well because they were battling Callahan and Morris, and the gap got out to about 3.5 seconds before the safety car. So if Nash can clear that car early on in this restart, him and maybe even Jared Hughes as well could apply the pressure on Ryland Gray. And look who's up into position number 5 outright, Crailsy.
Oh, it's our boy from the back of the grid, Cam Crick. He joked to Cameron van der Dungen at the start of the race. He said, oh, what's possible? He went, oh, well, I'll win. Cameron, he's P5 at the moment.
Yeah, that's incredible when you think about it. Unfortunately, though, a driver who had a great day yesterday. We were talking at the pole position. A lot of work now as a result of being held out on track a little bit too long. Max Gagan, sorry. I should introduce you to 7 Sport audience. Max Gagan.
Thank you, mate. The team made such a good strategy call yesterday. I think we maybe might have just missed the window if we came in very early then, so I think we're just playing a little bit safe. But good to see our 777 car in the team. Nath's flying out there. He's P2 outright, so I'm sure he's squealing in his helmet there. But I got full faith in Tommy. I don't think there was much damage there. I think it looked worse than what it was. Unfortunately, just wrong place, wrong time. He didn't do anything wrong, so unfortunately there was that contact there. But, yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to mention. We got a thumbs up from the team that the car seems to be okay. It looked like it was only light damage, but this is the challenge when you're back down the order, isn't it? You can get caught up in accidents that aren't your own fault.
Yeah, I mean, we see it in every endurance racing, so it's just part of the game. But, yeah, as I said, Tommy, I'm sure he'll recover as best as it can be. We, unfortunately, just missed out on that safety car stop, but his car's fast, so I've got full faith in him.
All right, thanks, Max.
Thank you.
He's a great known character, Max Gagan. He's going to be a star. He's got the surname too. It's so cool. He puts a lot of impact, I suppose, on the provenance of that surname that has long history in Australian motorsport. Legendary touring car drivers of the 60s and 70s in particular. So, I mean, they're still in the race. They're 20th outright. They're the last of the silver class cars running. They're still going to get good points in their class, but this will be a championship day that could swing things a little bit further to the way of the Ford Mustang of Ryland Gray and George Medeke that leads the race.
Very quick recovery there with the Ginetta. Thanks to all our volunteer officials, marshals, recovery crews. Couldn't do it without everyone. That's how we go racing.
Just puts a little full stop, Tom, on what we've been trying to chase, which is why they decided to keep that car out, because ultimately it's had the snowball effect because they waited a lap too long to pit, which then put them back in the field, which then caused them to be involved in an accident that could have potentially seen them DNF. So it sort of snowballed a little bit for it. Ultimately, they got away with it, Method and that McLaren team, but that's been a costly decision to leave them out that one extra lap and give up all that track position. So nice work for the team in the lane to cover that one off for us. And now we have an understanding, and they'll be hoping they get some green flag laps at the end of this to try and make up a little bit of ground.
Well, they absolutely nailed the strategy yesterday, didn't they? Starting on the wet tyres, and unfortunately today it hasn't gone their way in terms of strategy. And that, unfortunately, that's motorsport. That's motor racing, as we say, Crailsy. Sometimes you got to ride the highs and the lows of motorsport, and unfortunately for them, it hasn't worked today. But still under the control of the BMW M safety car. I'd say we wouldn't be too far away from a restart, so we will get some green flag running with, there's about 7.5 minutes to go plus a lap. And it is the 35 Ford Mustang that is leading the way. And there is the 777 Porsche that's run by Method Motorsport in behind. Callahan doing a great job. Nash Morris, Hughes, then Cameron Crick, Blake Purdy, Cody Bircher, Jacob Lawrence, Walker and Dalton rounding out the top 10.
This is a really cool story, the Legrand Porsche. These two boys from the West, they're great mates. They've been racing together for a long time in a range of different categories. In fact, going all the way back to saloon car racing. But in recent times, they've been in production cars, and they've built a Chevy Camaro that they run at the Bathurst 6 Hour every now and then, and unfortunately missed this year's race. But they were looking for something to step up to at a national level, and this was the answer to it. So bought the brand new Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 CS, and they're now leading the AM class. And we touched on this before. The AM class has been ferociously competitive this year. There's been 5 different combinations that have finished on the podium. This combination have had 2 second place finishes in AM class this year. So they're not worried about where they sit in the outright leaderboard. They're second outright on the road. The more important thing to them is the fact they're leading their class. They would love to get the big trophy for winning AM class for the first time this year.
Well, they're 6 minutes away, plus a lap from it potentially happening. And just to touch on the competition in this field, Crailsy, not only has the AM competition been amazing, but just outright with the AM class. I mean, look at qualifying yesterday. We saw Jacob Lawrence, Shane Smolin they shared the second row today outright. So not only is just the AM class battle heating up, but outright the AMs have been so competitive against the silver class, against the silver AM class. So sometimes you don't really know which way it's going to go. And we saw yesterday, after all the penalties were handed down, that it was Shane Smolin that got the outright victory. And I think you said it was the first time that that's happened.
Yeah, that's the first time a Porsche has won an outright, grabbed an outright win in Monochrome GT4 Australia. Yeah, 18 races into the history of this category now. So Porsche, a brand so famous for GT and sports car racing, hadn't yet troubled the scorers at an outright level. Shane won the class championship last year in that car, missed the opening round. He was on GT World Challenge duties in a Porsche 911 that weekend, came back at Sydney Motorsport Park and had a couple of wins, and a pretty strong weekend here is going to inject him right into the championship fight. third already coming into the weekend in that class.
Well, speaking to him prior to this race, I think that's where he wants to go eventually, is back into GT World Challenge Australia. So he got a little bit of a taste of it at Phillip Island, and I mean, winning outright yesterday, he probably thinks, you know what, I've completed it all now, and you know, quit on a high note maybe. But look, we hope to see him, whether he stays in Monochrome GT4 Australia or if he does head up the path into GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. Now, we've just been told the safety car will be in this lap, the BMW M safety car. Lights will be going out very soon, and it will be that Lubramax 35 Ford Mustang leading the charge.
Needs to put his head down, Ryland Gray, son of Jeremy Gray, well-known racer, a whole array of different categories, production cars, touring car masters, among others. Ryland, the second generation, and doing great things. He's got a bright future in front of him, like so many of our young stars we're seeing across the Shannons Speed Series program this year. Ready for a restart. 3.5 minutes remaining on the clock as the racetrack goes green once more. Can Nash Morris get past Nathan Callahan and challenge for a race win and complete a sweep for Porsche? Or will Ford Mustang be back on top at Queensland Raceway? Well, there's not a lot of time to find out. As always, busy. All Crick was under pressure. Blake Purdy was looking up the inside in the Audi, but there was no space, and he was shallow going into turn one. It's going to open the door for Cody Bircher to get the Central West Prestige BMW up the inside at turn two, and he might well grab that spot. Now Morris to the inside of Callahan. Jared Hughes going with him.
Yeah, I think it might have been a case of Purdy actually covering from Bircher there, as Nash Morris down the inside of Callahan, as too does Hughes, follows it through, and it's going to be now a case of Nash having to cover on Jared Hughes into turn number 4, and he'd be thinking, come on, we've got to work together, try and hunt down Ryland Gray, but Hughes will be saying, mate, I don't care about that, as he goes for the move, late dive bomb down into turn 4. That is an excellent pass, late manoeuvre, under control, and I think Hughes has got that move done on Morris. So now, can he get his head down and catch Ryland Gray with just under 2.5 minutes remaining?
And you've got to give credit to Nash for giving just enough room up the inside. Saw him coming and let the move stick. Now, down the inside, Crick goes through, Bircher goes through. Callahan just getting gobbled up a little bit here. Won't want to lose too many spots because the battle for the AM class is right behind him in that blue BMW in Jacob Lawrence. We'll follow that. There's so many stories we need to follow. The big story, though, is that Jared Hughes is clear of Nash Morris and he's going out after Ryland Gray. So Ford versus Mercedes AMG at the lead. Porsche in third, all silver class cars. Cameron Crick from the back of the grid to fourth on the road and leading the silver AM class. Dalton defending from Frugas, who's under investigation for that contact on the Ginetta at turn 2. And there was some busy stuff going on up here. Callahan defending as Lawrence goes around the outside. That's for the class lead.
And we've got Lockie Dalton in there, who's not really in the same race as them because he's vying for, he's second in class in Silver AM. So that's, we've got the battle for the AM spoils, Callahan and Lawrence, as Jared Hughes. Wow, 6/10 has he found on Ryland Gray to the middle sector. So this is going to come down right to the wire as these two go side by side. Callahan covering into the final corner, Lockie Dalton in behind. I'm sure he's been told that these guys are fighting for an AM class victory. And who's going to come out on top here? Round the outside does go Jacob Lawrence, but it'll be Callahan that has the inside. I think Jacob Lawrence might be clear now. So now Lawrence back in front in the AM class. And this right here is the battle for our silver outright victory.
Yeah, Jared Hughes comfortably sets the quickest lap of the race, a 1 minute 13.82 last time by, and he's got up behind the Ford Mustang. Ryland Gray feeling like he needs to defend. That move that Jared Hughes pulled at turn 4 was great, but there's contact, a little bit of bump and run perhaps between the Mercedes and the Mustang, but it was that move to side down the inside at turn 3. He followed Morris, and you had the feeling like he was going whether Nash liked it or not. Great aggressive racing, really clean between the two of them, and it's opened the door for the 87 car to get a win today, because Ryland Gray is wearing the back of this. They're going to have a lap to go next time by. The clock is ticked to 0.
Jared Hughes, he can smell victory. It's right there. Trying to go around the outside now of the Lubramax Mustang. I would say Ryland Gray will shut the door on him, and just be careful to give him still a little bit of racing room on the outside. But now we will be starting the final lap as Ryland Gray trying to cover into turn number 1. He will know that this is it. It is now or never for Jared Hughes. Can he get the switch back into turn 2? This is it. This is for the win. This would be Hughes's and Summer Rinsel's first win in the championship.
Around the outside of turn 2, no room there, but it is absolutely on down here at turn 3. And keep your eye on Nash Morris in that blue and white Porsche, because he might be there to pick up the pieces at the end of this. He's still in the fight. What a weekend this has turned out to be for Monochrome GT4. Hughes goes very wide. Morris buys into this now. Here comes the flash in the Porsche. And is that the little moment that Ryland Gray needed to pull away in front and lock away a victory in the Mustang?
Yeah, exactly what he needed. Morris would be wanting to try and get that move back on Hughes, but I tell you what, it's going to come down to the wire. I think Ryland Gray should be okay here. But we know how strong that car is under brakes, the Jared Hughes car. And with 1 corner remaining here, Richard Crail, I think that it's going to be as it stands at the moment. Ryland Gray exiting the final corner, and he is going to get the victory for the 35 Ford Mustang. What a finish we have here this morning in Monochrome GT4 Australia.
Oh, well called. To do us all out of a job. A great victory, a fighting drive for Ryland Gray. He holds off a fighting drive for Jared Hughes, it's got to be said. 0.2 of a second the margin in one of the better races to a checkered flag we've seen in Monochrome GT4 Australia. Nash Morris home in 3rd, and Cameron Crick from the back of the field wins the Silver Ram class. Jacob Lawrence, Tom, Jacob Lawrence passed Nathan Callahan on the final lap and got the win in the AM class.
Only half a second between those two either, so great battle between those two, keeping it clean. And Daniel Frugas unfortunately copying that post-race drive-through for the contact with Lockie Manif that caused our final safety car. And this is your results. Ryland Gray, George Mediki taking the win in that Lubramax 35 Ford Mustang. Ford will be happy with that. Jared Hughes, Summer Rinsel getting another class podium and second outright in the silver category. I tell you what, for a moment there, I thought they might have had a chance to get the win.
Yeah, second place for the year for the Triple Eight team. The 7th victory for Monochrome GT4 Australia for the Lubramax Mustang.
So it was a great start, wasn't it, from the 35 Ford Mustang, and that was contact between the 24 McLaren and the 71 down at turn 2, which there was no safety car at that point. A little bit of hip and shoulder there between, I think that was Heyman and Mediki.
Well, it's Max Gagan at the start. Remember, it's a really odd exchange between them, and then the safety car was called for the 24 method car, bunkered down at turn 1, and a strange call from the same team left the teammates who were leading the race out for 1 lap, and they lost a lot of track position. That handed the race lead to Ryland Gray, who assumed point as the field raced their way back, and it was busy behind as people made moves. Nash Morris and Jared Hughes, 2 members of the Norwell Drivers Club. Then there was contact here, and big contact indeed, with Lockie Manif in the Ginetta G55. And watching that was Max Gagan, who had to watch his car spearing off to the inside as the championship leader. And then the final lap fight, Jared Hughes followed Nash Morris through, and Nathan Callahan on the run down into turn 3, and then set about challenging for the race win. Ultimately came up 2 tenths short, but what a show it was. One of the great Monochrome GT4 races.
Yeah, some great exchanges there, Crailsy. Lots of racing room given. We thoroughly enjoyed that, and I hope you all did at home as well.
So many exchanges there. Telstra would be proud of it. That was a really good race, and a messy day yesterday, admittedly, for the category, but a really solid one today. While we wait to get down to the stop area, just want to highlight the results. So Cameron Crick and Dean Campbell winning Silver Am, Jacob Lawrence in Am. Let's go and celebrate this one. Cameron?
I'm just waiting for them to get their Pirelli caps on. Well done. Welcome back to the winner's circle, George Mediki and Ryland Gray. It didn't look like it was going to be a win at one point in that race, but you got it done.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I felt like we had a reasonable car. I got a great start, but obviously there is a bit of a difference in speed between some of the cars at the moment. But, you know, where it mattered, Ryland did a really good job, and obviously we had a quick pit stop from yesterday, but he earned his money holding off those cars on the last lap, I'll tell you what.
And Ryland, we had a chat mid-race. There was some concerns from you after the contact down at turn 3. Car looks like it just held together, though.
Yeah, it did. Nice, big and tough Mustang. Hold together like they always do. But, yeah, got in. Car felt good. Tried to get off to a good lead. A few safety cars. And then hard defensive on the last lap. So played all the games I had in my book. And beat Triple Eight at the home track's always good as well.
Well done, boys. Congratulations on the win. We're going to sneak around now and have a chat to a driver who I also spoke to on the wall. And if I get this quote right, it was, we're only out here to win, or something like that. And here you are with number 1. Well done, Cameron Crick, and also Dean Campbell. Great job to both of you.
Yeah, I was sort of a bit shocked by that. Obviously, mate, it was all Dean, really. Like, he started on the last row and got up to nearly the top 10. So I jumped in. The car was really good. I made a few spots, but not as many as this guy. So the credit's to him.
You don't know about this, by the way, Dean. I interviewed him on the wall, and I said, what's your ambition? What is a pass mark? And he said, a win. And here you are. He put the pressure on you, and you delivered. Congratulations.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, we were very disappointed. You know, we got all our setup wrong for the weather, and we were flipping the coin, and unfortunately we fell on the wrong side of it. And we had the setup for the car today, and I was very determined. Cam was very determined, the whole team, and I said the same thing. We just got to get out here and try and win this somehow.
And just quickly before I leave here, though, so early on in your GT4 journey to enjoy some victory lane action, you must both be very proud.
Very proud. I'm very happy to be doing it with Cam. You know, it's a really good thing, me and him, that got going on here. So fingers crossed we can keep this going.
I think you will. Good luck, boys. Congratulations. And let's head on back. Where is Jacob Lawrence? He's over the back here. Jacob Lawrence, congratulations. Welcome to Victory Lane.
Yeah, thank you, mate. It feels good to be here. It's been a while. Tough day yesterday. Saturday, we took the gamble on the slicks, so a little bit frustrated with that one, but it is what it is. So nice redemption today, and that was a lot of fun out there at the end with the boys.
I was going to say, the way your team has been building and evolving, you must also be proud of the family effort and what you guys have been putting in to get you to this position where we're talking on 7 Sport.
Yeah, that's it, mate. So the team, we've banded together, we've grown quite a lot, and not to mention the support from the family at home. The wife and kids are hopefully watching, and can't do it without the beautiful wife looking after me.
All right, let's go see you on the podium shortly.
Thank you, Matt.
Nice work, Cam. Loves to remind drivers what they promised him at the start of a race, and they delivered. That was an awesome drive. You touched on the point while we were hearing from them. The comeback through the field for the 87 car was outstanding.
Yeah, they started in 13th position, so great to nearly get the win. I mean, that fastest lap time as well, a 13.8, over half a second quicker than the next car. So it was just 2 tenths covering the top 2, 6 tenths covering the podium in the outright spoils. And it's Ford that take the victory in the silver class and silver am with Cameron Crick. So I guess they got the pass mark there from Mr. Dean Campbell, and just a great job from Jacob Lawrence. They're so deserving of that win. They've had so much thrown at them, and it's great that they get the victory today.
And that win in Silver Am is going to get Crick and Campbell very, very close to the lead in the championship too. Let's celebrate that one, shall we? Let's go to the podium.
Welcome to the podium presentation for 2025 Monochrome GT4 Australia Round 3 at EVENTelec GT Festival, Queensland. Presenting the trophies today, Marcus Moreira, Sales Manager, Queensland and New South Wales for Pirelli. Please welcome the top 3 placed cars for the silver class. In 3rd place, Nash Morris and Zoe Woods for TechWorks Motorsport and ZW Racing. In 2nd place, Summer Rintoul and Jared Hughes for JGI 888 Racing. And in 1st place, George Miedeke and Ryland Gray for Miedeke Motorsport with Lubramax. Ladies and gentlemen, your Monochrome GT4 Australia Silver Class winners. for the celebrations. Okay, we'll now move on to the Silver Am Cup. Please welcome the top 3 place cars for the Silver Am Cup. In 3rd place, Aaron Seaton and Jason Gomersol from Gomersol Motorsport. In 2nd place, Lachlan Dalton and Benjamin Newman for Buckby Motorsport. And in 1st place, Cameron Crick and Dean Campbell for DA Campbell Transport. Ladies and gentlemen, your Monochrome GT4 Australia Silver Am Cup class winners. Drivers, the podium's yours. Finally, please welcome the winners for the Am Cup. In 3rd place, Jamie Aratoon for AR19 Motorsport. We just find Jamie. And whilst we wait for Jamie to make his way to the podium, in 2nd place, Chris Lillis and Nathan Callahan from Method Motorsport. In 1st place, Jacob Lawrence from Randall Racing. Ladies and gentlemen, your Monochrome GT4 Australia Am Cup winners. Drivers, the podium is yours.
Thank you, Cameron. Nice work. A great celebration for a weekend that had some highs and lows, as always, in Monochrome GT4 Australia, but ultimately ended with an absolute thriller. Well done to Ryland Gray and George Meadicke for grabbing the win in the silver class there. Jared Hughes and Summer Rintoul, I'm on the program for getting them a TV show or a podcast or something there. Great fun together. Their second place of the year. Nash Morris and Zoe Woods, they're having an outstanding season in 3rd place in silver. From the very back of the field, Cameron Crick and Dean Campbell ended up winning the silver Am class and 4th outright, which is a huge drive. And with a last lap pass, Jacob Lawrence got the win over Nathan Callahan and Chris Lillis in the Am class. Monochrome GT4 Australia returns at Sandown in just a couple of weeks, but plenty more coming your way from Queensland Raceway right after this.